Did you know that 50% of new hires, they actually leave their work in 18 months because they actually joined the wrong company? Again, you've chosen a career. This is your career. So it's very important that you train and develop yourself. That's also going to help you to stand out, you know? Most people who are available for recruitment, they are the unemployed, obviously, because they want jobs, right? But then now you'll find that organizations also want to recruit top candidates.
Subscribe to this video, please.
Afternoon, how are you? It's good to see a much fuller class. I think we had a third, if not a quarter of the class last week. And I was disappointed, eh? Drove all the way to come and attend to just a fraction of the class. Why link it so? I'm not sure I forgive you yet, especially since you don't have your scripts yet. I still hold the power. But welcome, guys, welcome. As I promised to those that were here last week, I have a special guest that will be coming to do a presentation for you guys in relation to the module we are currently covering. His name is Moses Themba. He's been my friend and colleague since 2010. We met during ComServe. So just as much as it's possible for you guys who have started a friendship here at tertiary, it can go on for life. It will be up to you guys. And it will also depend on the value that you create to one another more than anything, right? So we did community service together. You already know a bit of my history, so it coincides with his. We were together at OR Tambo International Airport. When I went to the city of Johannesburg, he ventured off into the private sector as a food auditor. He did that, was it a year and a half?
Annual year.
Yeah. So he was there for a year, then he came to join me at the city of Johannesburg, but he worked in a different region, which is where he still is now, Region E of the city of Johannesburg. He's now a senior environmental health practitioner there with vast experience, over 10 years now.
Yeah.
Probably 12 years.
We are old.
We are old, definitely.
You don't need to see that.
So it's over 12 years experience, guys, and he's still making moves within the profession. You should always find someone who's better than you in more respect than one. Back in 2011, there's this thing called the Alfred Nzo Awards that the city of Johannesburg does. It's also done at national level. So we are very competitive, the both of us. So it's a competition where you do presentations, research, and you try to be the most innovative in the region and so on. And hey, he schooled me. He came first, I came third. As much as I speak so much and so on, there are guys who are just a level above, a notch up. So I had to make sure that even after those couple of years, he still sticks by me here. Even in terms of business, he's the one that sparked the idea, because for years he was like, when are we opening a business? When are we opening a business? I was like, business. I was still very focused on just the work aspect of things. But he sparked that idea and it came to life. Currently, he's doing his postgrad in management.
Public management.
In public management. And so some of these modules then coincides, except his is just that it's more advanced. So I told him to come with a bit of that advanced knowledge because I know I have an advanced group here. So please give him a warm welcome and a round of applause. Mr. Themba, they are all yours.
Okay, all right.
They are all yours.
Wow, what a warm welcome. Good evening, guys.
Good evening.
I think he's said a mouthful about who I am, you know. My name is Moses Themba, like he said. I'm currently working for the city of Johannesburg. It's about 11 years now, being EHP. But I'm sure most of you might be wondering, in EHP, the slide is saying recruitment and selection in human resource management. What does this guy know? I'm basically currently studying, I'm doing my postgrad with the University of Pretoria. So within that, we tackle a lot of things. So there's a module that I completed, which is human resource. And then what better way to come and equip you guys? Because you guys, I believe you're 4th years, right? Now you guys will be going out there into the outside world. So I think it's very important to have an idea of what the organization or the companies are looking for out there, right? Because I'm sure most of you would wonder why companies like Google or Apple recruit the top candidates, right? And then did you know that 50% of new hires, they actually leave their work in 18 months because they actually joined the wrong company, right? So I think today, when you guys leave here, you'll be having an idea of what companies, whether in the public sector or in the private, when it comes to recruitment and selection, what are they looking for, right? And then this is very important, not only outside, but also I believe that is part of your module. So it's going to be part of your exam, right? So whatever that is going to come up here, please guys listen, let's engage, let's talk, let's have fun. And then so that when you do your studies, you guys are okay, right? All right. So, like I said, we'll be talking about recruitment and selection in human resource management. Learning outcomes. At the end of this presentation, you should be able to explain what is recruitment and selection. You'll be able to discuss the recruitment process. You'll be able to identify internal and external methods when it comes to recruitment. You'll be able to explain the role of the HR when it comes to the recruitment and selection process. You'll be able to now discuss the sequence of a typical selection process. You'll be able to discuss the different types of selection interviews. You'll be able to discuss the merits when it comes to reference checking in terms of what the HR specialist or HR personnel deal with when it comes to reference checking. And then you'll be able to discuss the various decision strategies for selection, right? So, you must tell me if I'm going too fast, ne? Okay, so most of you guys are still gonna be employed. Maybe you guys have been employed before, but there's a whole lot of processes that as a company or an organization, before you can recruit or employ someone, there's various things that are going into in the background. Because you can see now, competition is vast. People can cram questions. So the HR personnel as well now, they need to look out for all those things, you know, so that they get the right fit for the company. Especially now in South Africa, we have a lot of people complaining that, especially in the public sector, people are lazy, right? But now, should organizations get this right in terms of selection and recruitment, then we're going to avoid a whole lot of problems that are happening currently in the organization. So what is this recruitment that I've been talking about? Recruitment is the process of acquiring applicants who are available and qualified to fill positions in organizations, right? That's you guys. Once you now have qualified, you've got environmental health, then you guys can venture into mining and whatever. Now, recruitment is now when they look for you. It's recruiting. Then selection, that's now the process of choosing from the applicants, the individual who's best suited for a particular position. Now, every organization, every company, whether big or small, it has to recruit to fill vacant positions. So it's part of every organization has to do this, right? Now, the recruitment process. This is just a little bit technical, but I'm gonna try to summarize it for you guys so that you can understand. Every organization, before it, let's say, is applying for a post, whether they're looking for an EHP or whoever that they're looking for, they need to investigate the environment. They need to determine the relevant labor market and gather information. What am I talking about? The labor market, basically, you know, guys, we come from a disadvantaged background. you've got skilled, you've got semi-skilled individuals. So there needs to be job description tailored for the particular job. So there's investigations that happen. The organization does backgrounds. Do they want a white person? Do they want a black person? We now have people with disabilities. Is the post going to accommodate people with disabilities? So all those processes, the organization, the HR department needs to do all those thorough investigations in terms of who are the people that they need, right? Now, most people who are available for recruitment, they are the unemployed, obviously, because they want jobs, right? But then now you'll find that organizations also want to recruit top candidates. People who, because when you're unemployed, you don't have experience, right? But then as a company, you want someone who's just gonna come in and run. Little orientation, they save money in terms of taking you for training and all those things, right? So now, where do these organizations look for this type of people? They look for part-time employees. Right now in the banking sector, they're utilizing a lot of part-time people because as an organization, you get to save money, you pay them less, they have to get less benefits, you know? So organizations now are going for part-time employees. And then you have underemployed individuals. This now will be someone who has done environmental health, but because you're not getting any employment, you start working at a retail shop or working for that company that is not in line with what you have trained for, right? So organizations will recruit those type of underemployed individuals. And then there's also what you call pirating. Pirating now is recruiting from other companies. One organization which is very good in pirating, I know, is Durban Municipality. They take a lot of our staff, especially from City of Joburg. Why? Because they know they've got experience, they hit the ground running, little orientation, but then now, pirating, the organization needs to attract you now with better benefits, salary, you know, all those conditions, better working conditions. So now, in terms of recruitment, we touched on the unemployed, which is the most vast people that organizations will employ. But remember now, we also have different type of candidates that an organization will want to get, right? Are you still with me, guys? Okay. So now, recruitment sources. So now, once this organization, remember, has done its background, are they going to get someone who's disabled? Do they want a skilled individual? Do they want white, black, colored, and all those things? So once everything has been determined by the organization, now the organization now needs to decide, are they going to recruit from inside the organization, or are they going to recruit from outside, which is externally, right? Of which we'll deal more because you guys will be from the external part, right? But remember now, as an organization, there is always advantages and disadvantages, correct? Of getting someone from inside, of getting someone from outside, right? So let's just briefly see what are those advantages. So here's company X. They've got a vacant position. They decide, okay, fine, we're going to fill it from within. Why? Because when you fill a position from inside, the employees who are also part of the company, they get to feel that I also have a chance to grow, you know? It boosts morale, you know? And once this one has moved up, it means it leaves position for a lower level to also come in. So that, and then obviously at the end of the day, it's less expensive. The person is familiar with the environment, right? You don't have to spend a lot of time showing them the place, getting familiar with the people. So that is one advantage of what? Internal recruitment. But then now it also comes with its own disadvantages when you get someone from within, right? It's gonna be competition among staff, you know? And then now also, let's say you guys are friends. You get promoted. you guys used to go out. You know her secrets. I really want to listen to her if she's now your boss. So those are now what companies have to think about. You say, okay, when we promote this person, are the subordinates going to listen to this person, right? And then we know we blacks, sometimes witchcraft plays a role. So we need to be very wary of internal promotions, right? So now, organizations by law have to do what you call job posting. How do they now make their internal employees aware of the particular vacant position? We've got what you call your normal traditional bulletin board, where they need to make sure that they post whatever the particular vacant position on the boards. We've got email-based, where you send through email whatever job which is available. And then we've got what we call the organization's intranet, which I believe that is so much easier. It's in line with the technological world in terms of what's happening now. So you just have to now, on the company website, when there's a vacant post, like in City of Johannesburg, you just have to get in there. If you fit the description, you apply, and then you get a response same time. It limits you now have to go through your manager. Obviously, can be a lot of bias. So you just deal directly with HR, right? So that's your internal recruitment in terms of how the organization deals with. Now, this is more applicable to you guys, which is external recruitment now, right? So external recruitment varies. There is the one that you guys are used to, which is direct application. You physically hand in your CV, or you mail it by post or whatever. That's when you're looking for the external person. And there's what we call employee referral. Employee referral can be similar to pirating, but whereby he's working for Ekurhuleni. He can say, there's a guy at City of Johannesburg, let's bring him on board. That's how organizations deal with external recruitment. And then we've got the university or school recruiting. This is where they pre-screen programs which are designed to identify not necessarily top students, but students who show potential. For example, not long ago, I had one of the lecturers giving me 2 names of what students who are looking for employment. But remember now, the lecturer must vouch for you, because now they're bringing you into the organization. So they do, in terms of recruitment, it works. Thereby we mark you. If you guys come for your wills or whatever, we see you, right? And then when you come through, we're like, okay, this one has potential. So that is one way of recruiting, or taking you guys directly from the university, putting you guys into employment. That's how companies do recruitment. And then obviously we've got agencies, which is normally the last resort because it's expensive. We all know you take your CV through an external company, they take 20% or whatever percentage. That is how organizations get people. And then obviously there's advertising, which is e-recruitment, which is what I'm sure most of you are familiar with right now. The likes of LinkedIn, newspaper adverts, where you'll see the adverts being posted there. There's radio, television. On Facebook now you see posts. There's groups now which they advertise, post, and all those. So companies sometimes they'll go onto those platforms. So those are basically now the external recruitment methods that an organization would want, correct? When they want an individual. So it also has its own disadvantage and advantage. Because now, when you recruit someone from outside, they come with fresh ideas, right? They don't know the people, they don't know the environment, so people are more to give them respect, unlike someone who's internal, right? But then now, it also has its own disadvantages, because as much as they bring new ideas, they don't know the environment, it might take longer for them to be productive. So as an organization, they always weigh their options, right? Any questions on recruitment? Okay. Remember now, we talked that it's recruitment and selection. Recruitment is how the company now determines who they want, how they go about it, and all that, right? Now, you guys have handed in your CV, whether it's direct through LinkedIn or referral, whatever way. You were recruited from the university, it's different ways. Now, the organization has a responsibility now to select. What's selection? Selection, this is the process of choosing from a group of applicants the individual best suited for the position, right? So organizations as well, they need to get someone who meets the goals and the objectives of every organization. You don't just take normal buy. So as much as you guys are here, all of you, you can send in all your CVs, but now you'll see the selection process in terms of now how do organizations choose their best candidates, right? Just a little bit of theory. I'm just going to go through this very quickly. I'm not going to bore you. So now when it comes to the selection process, the ideal situation, selection involves choosing the best applicant to fill the position, right? Your HR manager will review, screen whoever meets the job description based on the qualification and experience, right? The selection process involves making a judgment. It's not about the applicant, like I said, but it's about the fit between him or her and the job, right? And now, there is no perfect test or perfect way to gauge an applicant. Someone can be given questions. Someone can cross-night, memorize everything. You've got good actors, you know. But then now, as HR personnel, you have to be trained now to look out for those things. Because you can get someone who gives you all the best answers, 5 out of 5. Now, you have to now produce. So it's the HR's work in terms of human resource to look out for all those things, right? So there's many subjective factors that are involved in the selection process. And then what are those subjective factors? So I think in terms of the selection process, is the heart of every HR program, because you get the selection wrong, you've got the wrong person for the company, it's not going to be productive. Probably the person now is going to be demoralized, and it's also going to now hit you in the pocket because you're going to have a high turnover, resignations, absenteeism, all those things. So you have to, as HR, make sure that you get the right fit for the person. And then, especially now, in line with what's happening in South Africa in terms of the productivity level, more so in the public sector, you know, to say, abantu say government bayatswafa, you know. But then, what did HR do when they recruited that individual? You know, did they really scrutinize in terms of being subjective? And then, at the end of the day, besides HR dealing with the selection process, they make sure that the process complies with government legislation, right? As you know, we've got the Employment Equity, we've got the Labor Relations Act, which now make sure that no one's going to be discriminated against in terms of the selection process, whether through religion, disability, or all those things. So HR personnel play a very vital role when it comes to that, right? And then now, obviously, when it comes to selection, you'll now need managers as well. Some people who have insight about the job, who can now also join hand in hand with your HR personnel during the selection process. So now, the selection process, just quickly, they will receive your application. There's what we call now the initial screening. Initial screening is now you're checking, is this person that is applying for this job, meets the requirements? Do you have environmental health? You might find people that they don't even have the qualification, but they just throw engineering, because there's a lot of unemployment. They just hold their CVs. So there needs to be screening. Otherwise, you'll end up employing the wrong person. So we've got what you call application form or blanks. This is what we call Z83. It makes it easier for the HR or whoever that is shortlisting to, instead of just going through the whole pile of CV, it's one pager. It will give you your qualifications, where this person is from, experience, all those things. And then obviously now, once that has happened, you are called in, you have your interviews. After the interviews, if you are successful, some interviews are followed by employment tests or assessment, kind of just to gauge you. Then obviously, then you've got your background checks. It's very critical, but we're going to go to the reference now in terms of reference checks. Why references are very critical, especially in this day and age when it comes to selection, because we have people who fake their credentials. We've got the Thabo Bestas of this world. They say it, but they are not the person that they say they are. So it's very critical to do the background checks. And then some jobs, whether it's mining, they'll now want to check your fitness, you'll do your medical tests, and then you get your job offer. So organizations, when it comes to the selection, there's a whole lot that the HR department needs to maneuver around, right? So just for you guys so that you can know as well, when it comes to selection and process, the purpose of interviews is to determine 3 things, right? Does the applicant have the ability to perform the job, right? Will the applicant be motivated to be successful? Don't want someone who's stagnant. Are you going to grow the organization? Are you going to grow yourself? Will the applicant match the needs of the organization? If it's a job whereby you must lift, are you strong enough? There can be a practical whereby you show yourself that you are strong enough. Can you work overtime? So you want to determine all those things through the interview. Type of interviews. Normally, we'll have 2 types of interviews. It will be your structured interviews with a panel, especially if it's a well-organized organization, your big organizations. And then sometimes you might find that you get to an interview, it's a casual talk, it's unstructured. Usually that will be like your smaller companies, but that now happens rare. Normally, it's the boardroom, you sit, structured questions. So structured interviews, they have certain characteristics. But for you guys, it's very critical that you must just know that it's your questions. Questions are going to be more on the job requirements. You get scored in that interview. I'm sure if you've attended, you'll find they'll be scoring. There will be a committee. A committee is very critical because they need to now minimize bias. So you need to have at least 5 to 4, whoever, depending on the size of the job, And then it needs to be consistent. Same questions, same scoring for all applicants, right? Now, interviewers ask 4 questions, structured questions. You'll get, for example, situation questions. Situation questions is how you would deal with a certain situation when you're presented with it at work. If it's a management position, how you deal with an absent worker, how you deal with someone who comes to work drunk, So those are situation-based questions. And then job knowledge questions, you guys are going to be, you're doing environmental health. They can ask about certain legislations. Are you familiar with the certain legislations, And then job simulation questions. Once you are in the job, how would you go about to conduct 1, 2, 3? You understand what I'm saying? How would you go about doing an inspection at a funeral undertaker, all those questions to see that indeed you've got practical knowledge on the job. And then obviously employee requirement questions, you know, are you willing to relocate after 6 months? They can check, you know, if you're married, if you've got family, you cannot just now relocate to Durban. So they gauge all those things as an organization. Now, selection and recruitment is protected by law. So now, according to the labor legislation, organizations, when it comes to recruitment and selection, there is certain questions that they cannot ask you, right? Because it's a bit unfair. You get men who are part of the panel, you don't know what is their intention, so they might be sizing you there in the interview. But these are just some of the questions that you guys are not supposed to be asked. You know, how old are you? I'm here to work. I'm here to work. Are you living alone? Excuse me. Do you have any plans for marriage? Can't be asked such questions. Do you have children? Are you affiliated to any political party? Which football club do you support? You know, what is your religion? So recruitment and selection in every organization is also governed by labor regulations. Yes.
I just wanted to ask a question. You said, in terms of going back to the last one.
The previous one.
Yeah.
Okay.
In terms of employment requirement questions, you said they have to know if you are able to relocate.
Yes.
So how would they know that if, like, you have a family, if you didn't disclose firstly in your CV, secondly, it's legally not allowed, required, it's not required, it's illegal to ask such questions.
Yes.
So how will they know if you will be able to relocate simply by an interview?
Remember when I started, I said there is no perfect way to test or gauge someone in an interview, right? So as HR personnel, I need to come up with questions that are going to be legal, but in a way that I'm testing. I can maybe ask a question, are you, like this one, okay, can you work overtime? It's legal. But then now I'll see if this person, like for example, as EHPs, there's events, whether it's a stadium, whether it's a concert, it's on Saturday and Sunday, sometimes that's on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We need people who can now also be flexible, you know? So it's also about flexibility or discipline question, you know? So, but you must now not ask the ones that are illegal when you're an HR person in an interview.
But I'm just asking if you guys, from the answers you gave from the candidates, do you have an idea of how...
What you want?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like how do they expose themselves?
Remember, it's like a test. Every question there's a memorandum, right? So you'll find that within the panel, there will be someone from the union. It's not an EHP, it's someone but who can ask questions, who needs to be briefed in terms of what we're expecting from the candidate, so that they can also score you and they combine the scores. So of course, there's a certain answer that we expect from a candidate when we ask questions. Are you answered? So. Okay. So now, we did, so those were the questions that are not supposed to be asked. Now, you've done your interviews. You made an impression, right? But then that's not where it ends. As companies, as organizations, you know, we always say you must have references, at least 3, you know? That is very critical. Why is that very critical? Because like I said, someone will, you know, there's a red flags when people come for interviews. You'll find there's a huge gap between when they first worked and what they are currently doing. So you need to understand, what was this person doing? Were they in prison? Were they in ICU? You know? And then you'll find that on the reference, all the companies that this person has been working for, they're all closed. So now, you need to, at the end of the day, to what? To reference check. at the end of the day, right? Organizations, when it comes to recruitment and selection, there's different types of ways in terms of referencing. For your high-end jobs, like you're going to be a vice chancellor of UJ, normally you'll have HR personnel who actually drive to your former employer. They can drive to meet up your friends and family just to get to know you. But this one is for your high-end jobs because it's very expensive to carry out this necessary reference checks, right? You can do a reference check via email, but this one is not advisable, or it's seldom done. Reason being, you send now to whoever is your former boss, they may take weeks because they don't check their emails, right? And then sometimes they cannot really express themselves fully in terms of the type of a person you are when it comes to writing. So there's limitations to reference checking via email, right? And then the most obvious one, or the one that we're most comfortable with, even as a manager, whoever, when you receive a call, you are able to express yourself freely in terms of when they ask you what are the characteristics of this person who has applied for this job, right? So the most obvious one and the most one that is done is the phone call. And then we have ones now, there's also the outside services, which is your investigators. They also do reference checks, especially when you want to work in the banking sector, They need to check your credit record. Sometimes you really want to double check the person's educational background because there can be fake qualifications that are happening everywhere, especially when it comes to doctors and all those things, right? Yes?
Sorry, I just want to have you ever had an instance or situation where you had somebody fake a reference, especially with email, given that it's so easy to create email, like email account?
In terms of faking a reference, no, not really. But what you'll have is that you'll put your friend as a reference, and you'll say your friend was was your boss. So that, when it comes to references, is most in terms of what's happening, but not necessarily an email. Because now, if you put a fake email, you are disadvantaging yourself because it's going to bounce.
No, but if I create the account,
oh, it's your one.
I say so.
Hey, you guys, you guys are smart.
Okay. I make an email.
Yeah,
Email you.
yeah. You know what? With technology, everything now, even the number that you put there.
Yes, it can be an extra SIM that I.
It can even be you. You've got 2 phones.
Yeah.
Then they call you like, TD, the best of the best. So you see, so that's why recruitment and selection, there has to be some serious steps that now organizations also have to be aware of, especially with the AI that's happening now, prints out a whole nice environmental health qualification. You produce it. You're an EHP. You can print out even an HPCSA card with the, so you see. So as organizations, we have to be, mindful of those things. You raised your hand, man. No. Yeah, no, not all jobs are gonna. I don't handle money, so I think for my organization to spend to try and investigate my credit profile, it doesn't make sense. But if you're gonna be now the mayor, the recent mayor of Tshwane, the guy was bankrupt. How is he gonna now handle budget? He can't even handle his own month-to-month grows. What? Now you want him to run the whole city. So you have to do for those positions, do your background checks, right? So once I'm getting to the end, guys, So now once that has been done, the reference checks, like I said, there's some pre-employment tests sometimes, depending on the type of jobs that you want or a position. I know, for instance, also in environmental health, it's not just a panel interview. Once you are done, there will be like a test, And then certain companies, when it's mining, you'll do a medical test or wherever where it's physical, you know. In your airport, I know when we're doing our ComServe at OR Tambo, your hearing as well, you know. You don't want to be standing on the line, the flight is coming, you can't hear the flight is coming. So your hearing needs to be very good when you're an EHP at the airport, right? So now, once that is done, everyone is happy. The organization has done all its recruitment process. They have done all their selection, and they've looked at all those things that can happen. We fucking done very wrong, we call, and it's not the right person. Because now you get employed, you become this unproductive person, you get paid for nothing. The company loses money. There's a high chance of you not resigning. So every organization wants to invest in their employee, right? So also you guys sitting here, when you guys have to apply, you need to check the background of the company. Is this really what I want to do? We know which are we turn the org.
Personal attack.
Yeah?
Personal attack.
Oh no, I'm just saying. Actually, we are colleagues. I'm just saying. You know that you family orientated. You're not. You wanna fetch your kids. You know, as you grow, you wanna fetch your child from school. You wanna do all those things. So sometimes the public sector might be more suited for you. But we are saying you must come as a lazy individual. You see. So once all that is done, then we all want to see all these words. We are pleased to offer you employment in this position. You are hired. Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, the lecture's not done. There's a question.
There's a question here. Yeah.